So it's not like Amazon, right? So you just decide what you want to buy, go there, click a button, buy it, call it a day. On the B2B side, it's not that straightforward. You need to get the security approval, you need to get the compliance approval, privacy approval.
Sure.
So the entire process, in many cases, it takes 4 to 6 months. Thanks a lot for having me here, Councilman Tanaka.
Sure.
My name is Hari Krishna. I'm the co-founder of this company called Expent, Expent.ai. We are a vendor lifecycle management suite. So we help companies buy the software that they need and also like make sure that they manage the right kind of software so that whatever they bought is useful for them. So that's at a high level what we do. We'll go into the details of what we do in a little bit, but thanks a lot for having me here. I'll first talk about the story of why we decided to build this in the first place.
Sure.
So prior to Expent, I was like part of the machine learning team at Workday. I was running the machine learning services team. It was a pretty big org, and it was a really good learning experience for me. Started off small and had a pretty big org towards the end. And as I was doing that, I had to procure a lot of software and tools. And the process of procurement, it doesn't matter what size of the company it is. If it's more than like 200 employees, 300 employees, you need to go through the right process. So it's not like Amazon, right? So you just decide what you want to buy, go there, click a button, buy it, call it a day. On the B2B side, it's not that straightforward. You need to get the security approval, you need to get the compliance approval, privacy approval, finance, legal. Everyone has to be on board before you bring
Sure.
something in, because if a tool comes in and if it's not working out fine, if there's a security breach or if there's a legal contract breach, I think the company has a lot of issues.
Sure.
So the entire process, in many cases, it takes 4 to 6 months. Like this is general statistics says if it's more than 300 employee plus, if it's all of these organizations, 80% of the software purchases that you do in these companies takes about 4 to 6 months. And that's a lot of waste of time. And there are lots of inefficiencies in that process. And we have noticed that it not only frustrates the buyer, but in some cases, it also frustrates the seller, or in most cases, it also frustrates the seller because they want to close this fast. But
Sure.
from the buyer perspective, it also frustrates the customers because they are expecting something to move faster, and the buyer would be like, yeah, I need this tool, and the tool is not there. So across the board, there are a bunch of inefficiencies, and that's what we noticed. And we realized that, okay, there are ways in which we can fix this using machine learning to make the process faster. And that's how we built Expent. Yeah, so the way it works is, be it companies, be it cities, you have to procure a lot of different, I mean, it could be software tools, or you will be working with vendors for stuff. And all of that procurement process, specifically in the city context, you will have to work with multiple different vendors. And there's also a huge process to go around it. And what we have noticed talking to a few of these cities, but many of the companies, is every place has its own unique process. The process is not going to be standard across all the companies or all the cities. Depending on the group of people who run that city, they would like to have their own process. And that is where we come in and we help, because we help with custom workflows where we help you discover and research about the different vendors for the problem at hand who can solve it for you. And then we help you navigate through the different people who are part of the city who can kind of approve and make sure that you're not wasting your money somewhere and it's actually useful for you.
And so do you only do software procurement?
No, so we start off with just software procurement. Even now, most of our intelligence and everything else happens with software procurement because there's a lot of data available online, which we can use to do a software procurement. But a few of our customers are currently using us for non-software use cases. They want to work with medical devices. They want to do with like paint shops. They want to do with others. So it's just bringing in any vendor and then managing those vendors. All right. So I've kind of hopefully given a good idea of the problem statement. But yeah, so we are Expent. We make vendor lifecycle management less painful. So what happens in many organizations right now is it's all decentralized procurement. Specifically with COVID, people are not in the same room to make the same kind of decision. Like people at different departments, they can make their own decisions. I mean, even this is one of the cases where like the water department, which I was talking about, the other city that we are talking to, within that group, there are multiple different groups, and all of them individually are looking to buy their next best video conferencing software, for instance, right? And like there's a lot of spend which could have been saved if they all grouped together and bought one software. And there's no way to centralize some of that. And that is what I mean by like decentralized procurement, which is what is happening, which kind of takes it. And in many cases, there are lots of inefficiencies. And that also happens because there is information in multiple systems right now, just like you were saying, Councilman Tanaka. So we have SAP or Oracle or one of those on one side, and then decision-making process and all that is in the email or in spreadsheets or in Google Docs, and you have your communication in Slack or again emails or whatever chat software that you use. So the data and the information that you need to make this decision is spread across multiple systems. And for you to come up with one data-driven decision, you have to go through all of this. And that is kind of where we help. And then in some cases, we don't know whether the vendor, exactly as you brought out earlier, we don't know whether the vendor is going to be working out for us or not. I mean, we have a set of, like, say, 600 question requirements, but that will not always say whether they are the best or not. So we need to understand their usage and also kind of crowdsource some of this, because there might be other experiences from specific people like you who might have made the decision in the past, instead of someone randomly coming from somewhere else and then telling you something. Like example would be, like, we know Palo Alto is like a specific kind of city in a specific kind of neighborhood. And so if someone from somewhere else who's coming and saying, oh yeah, this works great, that might not be relevant. And which is where we kind of find who are your peers, like what are your sister cities, for instance. We can do that. And then we'll figure out what are they using for this. Maybe you will recommend. And similarly, if you bought something and if it's working out well, that will be recommended for them with the right kind of privacy and other constraints in place. And in many cases, the approval process is like pretty slow, because this is the inefficiency which I was talking about, because there are stakeholders will be looped in only at the last minute, which like you'll be working on it, made a decision, and then now let me pass on to the security folks. And they will come in only at that time, and they'll take their own sweet time for 2 months or 3 months. So every person takes that time, every stakeholder takes that time. And instead of doing it in parallel, it's mostly sequential, which causes issues as well in some cases. And a lot of this is manual, and a lot of these can be automated. And specifically with AI and machine learning, it could be much, much better. And finally, in many cases, as I said, the other group that we were talking with, they have different groups inside the same water department looking to buy similar software. And one team has already bought it. So they could have just added on the licenses and not done that, which is where the issue is. So how do we help with all of this? So we have lots of workflows, and we have 100,000 plus vendors in our portfolio, and we help with giving you centralized visibility. We also help save time and money by consolidating all of this into one system. Instead of having 4 or 5 systems, we just have one system. And then we run surveys, and we try to collect feedback from end users. It's not just about people who are using it. Great, you're using it. What do you think about it? It's also about people who are supposed to use it and not using it. It could be software, it could be any vendor. Hey, you purchased this vendor for $500,000 and you're not using their services. Why? Like, you can ask them that. Or if you're using them, why are you using them? How are you liking it? What kind of feedback you have? We do that QBR, like quality business or quarterly business review. You can set the cadence as well, but doing reviews and making sure that you're on top of these communications and vendor performance makes it easier to not churn these vendors. And then we definitely help with reducing the time consuming inefficiency, so that the process of approvals and all that is much smoother and faster, because we can do all of this in parallel. And similarly, using AI and machine learning, a lot of these manual work can be considerably automated and can be made very easy, because all we are doing here is very simple natural language processing, which can, I'm pretty sure you would be familiar with this with your background.
Sure.
And then finally, we help you save costs. So at the end of the day, the software pays for itself, because you're not going to spend a lot of money in a lot of different places. Instead, you consolidate and spend all of that in one place.
My major concern, at least from the city council level, is getting multiple bids. That's something that's, I think, is important, because that way we get flushed out. But the second thing I also worry about is whether we're getting a good deal or not. How does your system help us make sure that we get a good deal?
Yeah, that's the piece which we can potentially help with. But what are you looking to, what was the most recent thing which you were looking to buy?
There's 6 contracts, and each contract is we're approving up to about $6 million for each of these contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 6 times 6, so it's like $36 million, right? $36 million. And the thing that kind of made me really puzzled was the same amount for this contract as it is for this contract, as it is for this contract, as it is all of the, what's the chance of every single software contract being the same exact
That definitely looks very odd.
Right. So let me show you this, right? So, okay. So this was what we were supposed to approve, right? And when I looked at the contract here, right? Okay, so this is the contract between us and Avertra. I'm not sure I pronounce it right. Okay, so you see it's a $5.9 million contract for just this company.
Okay.
Okay.
And what
Then I
services
look,
do they provide?
huh?
What services do they provide for you?
Um, SAP Support Services.
Okay.
Okay. So then I look at the next amendment. Okay. Okay. And this one is also a $5.9 million contract. Same exact figure, identical, right?
And they
And
also provide the same exact
it's
service?
also SAP Support Services.
This was great. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to talk to you.
Sure.
I would definitely
Well,
be
I
in
think
touch.
procurement is really important because this is the people's money, and
Exactly.
I want to make sure that we're spending the people's money well, especially if we continue to tax them, we're going to raise taxes. To me, it seems like we need to make sure that money is well spent. So I'm always interested in seeing if we can leverage technology to um, somehow make sure that our money is not being wasted, right? But when I see 6 contracts that are virtually identical for the same exact dollar amount, and all they did is change a vendor name, to me, it's like crazy. I don't know how
Well,
that
let me tell
flies.
you one thing, Tanaka. So the other group that we spoke with, the other cities
Yeah,
that we spoke with, they were like, okay, what do you do? And we are like, oh, we save time and we save money.
yeah.
And they're like, oh, we are government agency. We don't care about time and we don't
Well,
care
I
about
care
money.
about time and I care about money. So
I'm super happy that you are putting forth yourself in such a way that someone is actually thinking of it this way, because if you are of the opinion, no, we are government, we don't care about time or money, I don't think that's the right thing, because it's people's money.
I would say some other people may feel like that, but I care about it. I think it's
I'm
really
super
important.
glad that you brought it up. I
So,
mean, that's what I'm saying. It's very refreshing to talk to someone like you. Would definitely run through this and then reach out to you and see how it goes. I mean, but
okay.
thanks a lot for the opportunity. Really
Sounds
appreciate
good. Okay, have a good evening.
that. Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye. Thanks everyone for watching. If you like what you see, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell to stay up to date with our channel.